Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show on Lindell TV and on X, the famous X, Musk X, in which I think Ted may have set a record yesterday, but we'll get to that later. So, Ronald Reagan once told me that the reason our relationship with Israel should be so close and why we should be supportive of Israel, he always premised it completely on not on domestic politics, not on the theory of get the Jewish vote. He said, you've got to understand there's a distinction between Israelis and then, Jews in other places. They all love Israel. They all understand Israel, but they don't live Israel. The Israelis live Israel. By that, I mean day and night. From the time of their existence until today, their existence is in jeopardy in a way that maybe we understand occasionally if we have a nuclear scare or a scare of a war or September 11 or something, but they live it every day of their lives. And he said, our friendship for them should be a mutual friendship based on their friendship for us. People don't have many really good, loyal friends, only have a few. Nations, the same thing. And Israel's right up there, he said. I don't think there's a thing I've ever asked of them that they haven't done. And a lot of things I can't tell you what I asked of them. Well, I think it was proven today right out of the box, right? I mean, those two guys that you saw there today, Trump and Netanyahu, have changed the world. Netanyahu has changed the Middle East and set it up for the downfall of Iran. He's removed all of their hidden, made-believe, not hidden, their proxies that are emperors with no clothes, one emperor after another with no clothes. Oh, Hamas was going to be terrible. Israel was going to have a terrible time with Hamas. Yeah, I mean, if Biden didn't hold them back, they'd have been gone in 30 days. Then you better not engage Hezbollah at the same time as Hamas, and also because you can't, Israel, you can't have a two-front war. Biden isn't going to even support that. Well, they cleaned them out of Lebanon first, right? I'm talking about Hezbollah, the fiercest, the most devastating terrorist group in the world, trained by Iran, that great military power that has never won a war, ever. It did a 7-year tie with Iraq. We did a 3-month devastation of Iraq. Well, that turned out real well for Hezbollah. Anybody hear from Hezbollah lately? I mean, once they got them out of Lebanon, they just disappeared. Assad? Netanyahu got rid of Assad the way Ronald Reagan got rid of Russian communism. Without firing a shot, they just ran away. And that Iranian empire, Syria, Lebanon, controlling Iraq, wow, doesn't look like much of an empire now. Iraq is sitting there all by itself. Oh, it's got the Houthis way, way, way far away, down below Saudi Arabia, and every day we're bombing them. It's a slow elimination, but it's going to be an elimination of the Houthis. They've killed too many Americans, among other things. And now the question is Iran. And the two men who have the fate of Iran in their hands were together today. But the first thing our friend did is indicate that this furor about tariffs, I don't know, I'm missing something. And you're going to see why in a minute, but that before he even got to the issues of war and peace, he understands domestic politics in America. He was educated here. He knows as much about America as you and I do. What's the first thing he did? Can we play his announcing immediately, without negotiation, without haggling, without anything else? Israel and the United States, Israel right now has a trade deficit. We have a trade deficit with Israel. They're number 14 on the list of the top 15. Well, they're going to go right to number 1 in about 20 seconds. You just listen to this.
I can tell you that I said to the president a very simple thing. We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States. We intend to do it very quickly. We think it's the right thing to do. And we're going to also eliminate trade barriers, a variety of trade barriers that have been put up unnecessarily. And I think Israel can serve as a model for many countries who ought to do the same. I recognize the position of the United States. It says, we're allowing other countries to put tariffs on us, but we don't put tariffs on them. And, I'm a free trade champion, and free trade has to be fair trade. And I think that's basically the position that you have put forward, Mr. President. We are going to eliminate the tariffs, and rapidly.
Take that, Wall Street Journal editorial page. Take it. Boom. Bibi just punched you in the nose. If he had done what you said, Israel would still be charging us a 37% tariff. Lucky you're not running the country, huh? All you're doing is pontificating from your igloo of ignorance, which is the editorial page boardroom. What jackasses. So then the meeting moved on, and it was quite clear. President Trump did a tour de force today, as usual. When you compare him, not just to the prior president, but to any president, I was listening to most of the press conference, and I was thinking, my God, this is like a PhD dissertation in world politics. You want to play a little some of it? Any of it? It was all really very good. Yeah. Ooh, somebody's whispering.
Ready to take military action to destroy the Iranian nuclear program and remove this threat.
I think if the talks aren't successful with Iran, I think Iran is going to be in great danger. And I hate to say it, great danger, because they can't have a nuclear weapon.
So is that a yes?
It's not a complicated formula. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's all there is.
So
can't have it. Right now we have countries that have nuclear power that shouldn't have it, but I'm sure we'll be able to negotiate out of that too as part of this later on down the line. But Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the talks aren't successful, I actually think it'll be a very bad day for Iran if that's the case. Yeah.
It's almost as if he couldn't bring himself to say, I think the talks will be successful, because that naturally should have followed what he was saying. And then he immediately said, I think it'll be a very bad day for Iran. I think he knows where it's going. We all know where it's going. Ayatollah has rejected every reasonable proposal ever made, and he'll lie like hell. And you want to know what I think? Just Rudy, nobody else. No leak, no discussion with anyone. I think we're waiting for the arrival of the next second carrier group. So when you say carrier group, you bring in almost like most countries don't have anywhere near a Navy the size of one of our carrier groups. So we have one there. We have assorted other naval assets there. Of course, we've got 30,000 Marines and soldiers right in the 30,000 in the region. Probably been upped quite a bit since the last time I checked, and I don't get accurate information. I shouldn't. So I'm going to guess we got at least 50,000 hanging around. When we bring the second carrier group there over from Asia, maybe there are 4 or 5 countries that have a Navy that's equal to that. Certainly China, which is bigger than ours. But you got like just one of the biggest navies in the world sitting right outside of Iran. And they're there for a couple of purposes. They're there to take out their nuclear power, if necessary. And they're also there to make sure Iran can't do anything about it. They're there to create, to supplement Israel's Iron Dome, Iron Sling, the various Reagan-inspired nuclear defense shields with even more sophisticated nuclear defense shields that can be done from our Navy assets. When Trump says it'll be a bad day for Iran, I hope they're listening. I knew the minute they sent the Air Force B-2 bombers there that this was serious. Oh, they didn't just send bombers there; they sent 25% of them. 25% of all the B-2 bombers is sitting within easy range of Iran. They carry 30,000-ton bombs. A 30,000-ton bomb can go through Iraq. It could hit China, go right through like that. Didn't you know the bombs? My mother used to tell me that. My mother used to say, if you go right through the earth, you get to China. A couple of times I started digging at the beach. I couldn't find China. So, you've got to. I hope they read him right. I mean, we're going to talk a little later about an analysis done about China that's quite disturbing. Actually, it's quite disturbing, not because of how powerful they are, but because of how out of it they are, how little they understand of the real world, because they live in a communist Chinese bubble, and very dangerous. The First World War started because people didn't understand each other. They're not Russia. Russia is 75% a Western country and 25% whatever else. Even though most of its territory is in Asia, most of its population and productivity is in Europe, and they've always had this struggle between, how should they be like Western Europe or not? Peter the Great, who was one of their greatest czars, felt they should be like Paris. That's why he built St. Petersburg. And if you go to St. Petersburg, you think you're in a European city, not a Russian city. So the Chinese have always been on their own, isolated, an inflated notion of who and what they are. Okay, that's okay. Well, maybe we have that. But because they have had such difficulty engaging with the rest of the world, including now all these years of communist repression, their analysis of the world is faulty. We'll see that in just a minute. So Trump did indicate that we're going to have direct talks. It was a little fudgy, actually. They wanted him to say where the talks are. Of course, what they want and what he does are two different things. And he said, I'm not going to tell you. Why the hell should I tell you? But I think they're starting on Saturday. And they are, he says, at the highest level. So that says to me, it's some of the people you saw in the room today. Walls and Rubio and Pete Hegseth, at least, right? Maybe not both, Walls and Rubio. Maybe not. You don't need both. The president can keep one back. But those two, one of those two, Walls or Rubio, Hegseth, because you want to show Iran that this is a military. There's a military answer to this if you don't quickly agree, and then whoever else they think is important. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Iran gets to decide, what do we do? Do we? Well, they're not going to negotiate in good faith. They're not capable of it. And if we can't come to that conclusion after 40-something years, then we're really just as stupid as the people that Ted interviewed this weekend. Whatever they do will be dishonest. I don't understand how they're going to not lie and pretend they're negotiating. Are they also in a crazy, insane bubble? Do they have any idea what we can do to them? Stop us. You have any idea what Israel can do to them? Israel tried to show them that in the way they dispatched Hezbollah so quickly, Assad so quickly, and then did a couple of bombings that, I don't know, the press sort of understood it, but You know, our press is extraordinarily uneducated and dopey, so they don't pick up things. They went right near the Natanz reactor. Now, the Natanz is not their biggest by any means, but it's the one that was first discovered in 2003 by the MEK, I might add. And therefore, it has a symbolic value. It set back their nuclear program 20 years when we discovered that. And they went right next to the Natanz. They didn't hit it. They hit some territory right near it. And they went so deep into the ground, it had to scare the living daylights out of a rational person. What they were saying to Iran was, oh, you can see it. Yeah, you can see where it is. It's fairly deep into Iran. So it's a bit of a trip from Israel. But they got there and they went, I don't even think they had our 30,000-ton bombs yet. They went as deep as you have to go to eliminate their nuclear power. In one stroke, they indicated the following. They have the capacity to do it. They have the intelligence to do it. If you don't think Mossad knows exactly, Mossad probably knows better than Iran where the nuclear facilities are. And all they need from the United States is a pat on the back. We don't have to join it. Listening to Donald J. Trump, I don't know if we are or not. I do know it's eventually going to happen. And when I see the two of them together and no distance between the United States and Israel, it makes my heart feel good. I was so disturbed for 4 years. I mean, of course, I love my country more than anything else, but I love Israel too. And we belong together. They need us. We need them. We need a couple more allies like them. And then we don't have to worry so much about China. I see them developing also. You know, we've talked about it. I see Japan developing that way. I see a couple of the South American countries, although smaller and not as militarily powerful. We can change that. I see a couple of them as real possibilities. I see Poland and Hungary in Europe. Italy. I see some real losers. I don't know. You don't need more than 5 or 6 great military powers and allies. Who wants the losers? You're going to have to do what you did with France and NATO. You know, they bring their troops along and they don't fight. All it does is screw up morale. So today was quite a meeting, quite a thing to see. There also was a revelation that Hamas demanded and got at least originally $500 million from Iran, and it was denominated in the wire that was discovered for the destruction of Israel. So those people who want to keep Iran around, the Iranian regime will be there if you let them for as long as it takes to destroy the Jewish people. And then if they conquer that, they'll go to the next one they have on the list every Friday when they say their prayers, which is death to America. Oh, and then also death to MEK, which we've talked about and explained to you. And you understand that there is a movement called the MEK or the NCRI, the National Council for Resistance to Iran, that has a government ready to go as an interim government that could function for, they recommend 6 to 9 months to go to an election. And then they have a list of 10 specific principles of the leader, Madam Rajavi, which are basically our 10 variations of our Bill of Rights with heavy emphasis on the rights of women, largely because this organization is jointly run by women and because women have been tortured and continue to be tortured in Iran with the useless feminist movement completely ignoring it because it isn't a feminist movement. It's a communist movement. It has nothing to do with the rights of women. Otherwise, they'd be there stopping these men from boxing with them, wouldn't they? I think so. Okay. I like Senator Rand Paul. I don't want any of this to suggest that I don't like him. But everybody's wrong about something. I have been wrong about things too. But I'm not going to tell you because if I did it, it would be a big headline in the Times tomorrow. Giuliani was wrong about, and he's a jackass, and whatever. And even when I'm not wrong, I'm a jackass for the Times. Someday I'll tell you the things I was wrong about. Who cares? But Senator Rand Paul is dead wrong about tariffs, and he's dead wrong about trying to interfere. He got a resolution passed, 5149, something like that, to claw back. First of all, to remove the tariff that Trump has imposed on Canada. And then he wants to claw back the constitutional powers of Congress to set tariffs. Well, that'll be a big constitutional debate in which there are good arguments on both sides. I'm not saying there aren't. Congress does have a role in tariffs. Congress has delegated much of it to the president. The courts are now going to decide, has the president gone beyond what has been delegated to him? Now, the reality is Rand Paul realizes that he hasn't, and that's why he wants legislation, because Rand Paul is an intellectually honest man. I may disagree with him on this, but I have great respect for him. Well, the courts, the Democratic judges are hardly intellectually honest or people I have respect for, because they're going to say, no matter what, that Trump doesn't have the power to do it, even though Congress gave it to him. There's been the history of the last 5 years of two-tier justice. Heck of a euphemistic phrase, two-tier justice. Doesn't give you the real sense of how fascist, a word that I understand the meaning of, fascist the courts have been, or our criminal justice system. But I want you to consider that he did this on Thursday or Friday. Now, if Rand had been the president, which he tried to be, do you know how much money that would have cost us? Well, first of all, Canada caved in. We are now about to equalize our tariff with Canada. Who knows, we might get to zero. We're doing the same thing with Mexico, except we're making even more progress. Now, that's real good, because those are two of our biggest trading partners. But since he said that, Vietnam has volunteered to the president in a call from their president to do a zero tariff. Vietnam is third on the list of the most severe trade barriers. And now this list is compiled not just based on tariff, but all duties and impositions they put on the United States. Where are we getting hurt the most? I'm going to show you the list in a minute. But one of them is at zero already, offering zero already. You heard Bibi Netanyahu, they're 14th on the list. They're at zero already, okay? The European Union, now this is an interesting one because Musk got into a big battle with Peter Navarro that easily could have been avoided if the European Union acted faster. He said some angry words about Navarro. Navarro actually answered like a real gentleman. Peter is the best. And so is Musk. I mean, I understand I appreciate the passion of this. I also, having run an administration of people who disagreed with each other, I understand the value of people who are disagreeing with each other. Jeez. You know, sometimes when my guys were or women were too unanimous, I would change my mind. You know, they'd all think I'm going to use, I don't remember if I did it about this, but let's say when I did the imposition of work for everybody on welfare. And there was a lot of debate about that. And everybody finally came along on the theory that this was the only thing we could do. It was the best thing we could do. And at the very end, I said, I think, you know, I'm changed. I think I'm not going to do it. I changed my mind. I think politically it'd be too damaging. Well, they didn't know I was kidding. And they started giving me the arguments again. I wanted to make sure I was right. Trump is like that. I can see it when he does this. So all I'm saying is that Rand Paul could have saved himself an embarrassment, and Elon could have saved himself a disagreement with Navarro because the EU agreed to zero on tariffs today. You can't do better than that. That's our number 2 trading partner. Zero tariff. How are tariffs hurting us? Number 2 trading partner. or number two, disproportionate or unappropriate trading partner, let's say. Number three, Vietnam, 0. How long do you think it'll be for Taiwan to get to 0? Let's go through the list and let's see if if you think the Wall Street Journal is right or you think Donald Trump is right. That's the list right there. Ted, can we show them the list on the board here? Or Ed, either one. Okay, that's kind of small, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you make it bigger anyway? I may have to read it to them. It's not probably useless to do it that way, huh?
Yeah. Can you zoom in?
I don't know if there's any way to get. I maybe can go one at a time here.
Yeah. There we go.
How about that?
Okay. Yeah.
That better? Okay. Number one on the list is China. Okay, forget it. China's going to remain that way. Okay, 34%. It's going to be higher. But this is different. This is different. This is war. The tariff war, if we win it, means we might not have to have the killing war. So please think of tariffs with China very differently than anybody else. European Union, number two trading partner, maybe the more profitable trading partner. Today, they agreed to 0 tariff. Elon, you got what you wanted. You got what you wanted. Now, I do ask, you think they would have gone to 0 if Trump didn't do this? Well, they would have gone to 0 10 years ago. If they had Biden there, you think they'd have gone to 0? Vietnam, before the weekend was at 0. I can't believe Vietnam, I can't believe that Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea, who depend on us so much, isn't going to come along. They haven't yet, but they will. India, question, probably yes. Thailand, I don't know enough about. Switzerland, I can almost guarantee. Malaysia, probably. Indonesia, maybe. Cambodia and South Africa, we don't know yet. And Israel is on board. So we've already probably discounted and made a profit on the strategy by getting them to 0. And if we're at 0 with them and they're at 0 with us, these guys are going to have to join because we're going to start cutting them out. But please realize we are by far and without any doubt the most attractive market in the whole damn history of the world. Oh yeah, all those Chinese, 1.3 billion Chinese. The 700 million that are starving can't buy shit. So you got to take whatever they say and cut it in half. If there's a war between the United States and China, or a tariff war, who do you think these countries have to pick? You can do business with China or you can do business with the U.S. Why do you think Vietnam went to 0? Because they don't want to do business with China. For a couple of 1,000 years, they haven't wanted to do business with China. Neither does anybody else who knows China or is around China. Japan wants to do business with China? Are you crazy? Europe wants to do business with China? They do it because they have to. If they have to make a choice between the U.S. and China, you have per capita the wealthiest country in the history of the world with a great, great consumer market, so great that it helps to create its trade deficit, which is the positive part of it. And also a president who, although he has imposed what people might consider draconian tariffs, they're half the tariffs that are imposed on us. And he's willing to go to 0. This is a brilliant strategy that is being misrepresented to the American people by the same people who did Russian collusion, Ukrainian conversation, J6, everything else. That was the 4 prosecutions during the election year, trying to shoot him. The same people. And it's just as valid and just as stupid. And the early victories are actually quite impressive. I didn't think it would happen this quickly. And I hope the market, which is the market, think of the market as They're not people. They're eternally frightened individuals who you would not want to have in your army ever. Because when it's like the French. If you declared war on the French, they would immediately ask for a peace treaty. Well, we'll be back in a minute, and we'll see who else and what else we've achieved because of the tariffs. It's really quite remarkable, and I don't understand why they're not reporting it. Yes, I do. I'll be right back.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our spring percale Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
You know, I have to tell you, you probably have things like this too, and it's probably not the same for you as it is for me. There are certain people or certain situations that no matter how often they're repeated, no matter how often I see them, they make me laugh. I'll give you 2 examples. I was at a show over the weekend. It was a fundraiser for a wonderful, wonderful school, a classical Christian school in West Virginia. And they had an act. I think they might have done it because they had an Italian night, and they invited a Dean Martin and a Frank Sinatra imitator, and they were really quite good. And during the course of it, the Dean Martin guy made a few jokes about Jerry Lewis, who used to be Dean Martin's partner, and they broke up. They eventually made friends again. Now, it happens to be I was a good friend of Jerry Lewis. I did a number of speeches with him for Washington Speakers Bureau. One time he disrupted an entire Washington Speakers Bureau yelling, "Rudy for president, Rudy for president," ran all around the place like he used to do when he was a kid. I love Jerry. Jerry has since deceased. Jerry Lewis, when I was a kid, my mother would take me to see him and Dean Martin at the Brooklyn Paramount, For the rest of my life, I couldn't look at Jerry without laughing. I even acted with him in Damn Yankees, and it was impossible. I had to do everything I could to play a straight role. Peter Sellers, same thing. Mike Lindell. Not just in general. Yes, in general to some extent. But that ad you just saw, that ad, I probably have seen that ad 100 times, 1,000 times. I'm in bed, right, going to sleep, watching Newsmax or Fox or whatever. And there Mike comes on. I just start laughing when I see that guy showing up in his bathroom. I think that's the funniest damn thing in the world. I don't know. Ed, can we play that again? Is it possible to play that? Just the beginning of that ad? See if you, I'm going to look at it to see what do I see in it that makes me laugh all the time.
I hear every day about the products you all wish My Pillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleep. You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your My Pillow products: mattress topper, bed sheets, My Pillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before.
That's good. You got the part. I figured out why I find that so funny now. First of all these years that I've watched it, I didn't realize the guy on the other side has a cross, just like Mike. That isn't what makes it funny. I lived in apartments most of my life. As a child, I grew up in a home, but from the time I was an adult, I lived in apartments. People, I remember being asked, "Did you ever live in a home as an adult?" I said, "No, just in government-owned housing, Gracie Mansion." So, and even since I've got out, I had a home in Southampton, but I lost that in a divorce. And I live in condos, co-ops, apartments. And I'm a real New Yorker. I love it because they take care of everything. So you always think that these other people are just right next to you, next wall. Next wall is those other people. And that, for some reason, when I see that guy show up and Mike acting like it's natural, I don't know if you find it as funny as I do. But the only thing I'm going to tell you is, will you buy his pillows, please? And the other stuff? I mean, what they've done to this guy is as bad or worse than what they've done to me. And he's just a complete, absolute, 100% patriot with a life that's so admirable. But, I mean, I don't know. If he wants to give up doing pillows, well, he could be the lead act for the Jerry Lewis and maybe I'll do Jerry Lewis with that Dean Martin. I might remember how to do it. I don't know. So I think the tariffs thing is going in the right way, and I'm spending time on it because they don't report it. I actually think it's a positive, and I'm afraid because the media overpowers it so much, people are going to see it as a negative. Howard Lutnick was on this weekend. There was some talk that there's discomfort with Howard Lutnick or whatever. Well, if you have discomfort with Howard Lutnick, there's something wrong with you. Howard Lutnick is an American hero for what the hell he did after 9/11. If you got problems with Howard Lutnick, you come and see me. What he did for his people at Cantor Fitzgerald, very few human beings would do. Very much like Mike, just a really, really great man and a brilliant man. Geez, he knows a hell of a lot more about the economy than I do, and tremendous amounts more than any of these people questioning it. But Howard was on this weekend, and I thought he was tremendously persuasive. The Secretary of the Treasury was on dissent, and he did a good job of explaining that he doesn't really see a recession coming. But what Howard did was he pointed out that you're questioning these tariffs, and 50 nations have already called up asking for negotiations. But how can you even argue that it hasn't been successful? And then you see Bibi walking in. Okay, now Bibi is a friend. But boy, that puts a lot of pressure on everybody else. Vietnam is not necessarily a friend. Vietnam wants to be a friend. And I think Marco and Walz and Trump are smart enough to know how to play that. And that could be critical to the situation with China. But 50 nations are calling. I mean, the strategy has already worked. Just the EU alone makes the strategy work. So Lutnick was on this weekend on one of the communist Sunday shows, and he said 50 nations have called. The tariffs are coming. He isn't kidding. And you don't negotiate. That's it. they're negotiating. I told you the Musk-Navarro little dust-up is over. What Musk was arguing for was zero tariffs with EU. He's got it. Trump's strategy, Navarro's strategy worked and got him the zero that he thought was needed. Now, I want to show you how distorted this is presented to people. There's a column today by a very, very fine columnist that I usually agree with, Alicia Finley, about our having not enough trained workers or people who can do specialty type jobs. And it begins with a very snide, nasty comment, which is the things about the tariffs they apparently don't really understand. So she begins, Alicia, who is a very fine reporter and a very intelligent woman, begins with President Trump proclaims his tariffs will bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. Good luck finding workers to fill them. A common lament among employers, especially manufacturers, is they can't find reliable, conscientious workers who can pass a drug test. Single women might commiserate. A good worker, like a good man, can be hard to find these days. Blame government, which showers benefits on able-bodied people who don't work while at the same time subsidizing college degrees that don't lead to productive employment. I agree with that completely. I agree with everything she just said. And that is one of the reasons why we don't have the kinds of skilled workers that don't need a college degree that we need. But there's another reason. We let their industries go away completely and we don't need them anymore. So, Alicia, I would like you to think about the following. I'd like you to think about the man that I talked to the other day, who is an expert on shipbuilding from another country. And he said, you don't build ships anymore. And I said, well, how are we going to get back to building ships? He said, it's real simple. We got to get welders. We don't have welders in the U.S. because you let all your industry go away. You know, welders are needed for all the industry that you sent to China. You have given away, when you gave away a lot of your industrial base and got raped for it, you lost all of the attendant skills that go along with that base, and they overlap. So, Alicia, I don't know if you understand this, but your brainwashed bosses don't realize that what Trump is trying to do is to bring at least enough of those industries back so we have a broad-based employment base, so that if, God forbid, we have to do something like we did in 1939 and 1940 and build up from a country that had been disarmed by the Democrat administration of Roosevelt, basically surrounded by communists, we could do it real quick because we had the people who could do it, because they were in the steel industry. They were in the automotive industry. They were in the building industry. They were in, you name it. So it's really amazing how this, I don't know how to describe it, this sort of overzealousness about tariffs, and they can't think their way around it. And this is a really intelligent woman. Swear to God, if she had a chance to think about it, she would agree with me. I hope she'd be allowed to think about it. The editorial board might not let her think about it. So there also, we got a second one with another woman that I respect on the Wall Street Journal, Maria Anastasia O'Grady. So she says that earlier last week, the foreign minister of Argentina came to the United States and met with Rubio. And they met, and what was the purpose of the meeting? To lay the groundwork for a solid trade agreement. Then that mean, old, terrible, stupid President Trump came along and launched a trade war with the world. Argentina wasn't spared, getting hit with a new 10% tariff on everything it sends to the U.S. Argentina's country risk shot up on Thursday, whatever that means. On a visit to Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida that evening, Milei would be better served enhancing Argentina's economic and financial independence by repairing the country's broken monetary system. Dollarization is the best way to get there. Now, I agree with that also. This is an absolutely brilliant column about what to do about dollarization. But why the shot at first of all, it's a 10% tariff. You don't think Argentina and the U.S. is going to get to zero, Mary? How fast do you think, if just watching Bibi today, Malai, who I met at the Trump inauguration, you think he's going to agree with Trump? You think we're going to be at zero with Argentina? And isn't that what free traders really want? 0, 0? Or is there some other motive here? So what's all this ridiculous propaganda at the beginning of a brilliant column? You are letting the autocrats, the narrow thinkers in your editorial board dominate your intellectual capacity, which is amazing. It's really frightening to watch. And meanwhile, they don't report all the successes from the tariffs, nor do they make some kind of intellectually honest attempt to figure out how much that's going to mean. What's it going to mean with zero tariffs with Vietnam, zero tariffs with the EU, zero tariffs with Israel? What's it going to mean with zero tariffs with Argentina, which will be certain? The EU, by the way, the EU is basically as big as China. Look, here's where he's going to be. I say of those top 15, I'd be shocked if we don't get 10 or 12 at zero. And you know what that does? Really, it's like a war against China. It's a war that you never thought of. You weren't smart enough to think of, which is why you're not president and he is. Have a little respect. Now, they did have a great article on China, and it's something that you can see in all the things that I read about China. And of course, the best analysis of China comes from the Epoch Times. But China's imposition now of the maximum tariff, with everybody else suing for zero, is really stupid. And it's the result of China being boxed out, foxed out by Trump. He has made fools of them, absolute fools. Trump announced, and for him, rather modestly, Trump played it wrong. They panicked. The one thing they cannot afford to do. Now, when he says that, cannot afford to do, their economy is in terrible shape. And I predicted this a decade ago when everybody was really worried about China. I said, I'll only worry about China when they bring everybody out of fourth world poverty. Now, when I say fourth world poverty, I'm telling you, they have half their country in poverty that's worse than any place in South America, maybe but Haiti. But Haiti has, a couple million people. They've got 700 million. Yeah, they got about 500 million. They got about 700 million they have 100 million that are multimillionaires. They're communists. They've got about 400 million that are fairly solid middle class. They got a couple on the verge, and then they got about 5 million people who are in poverty that you don't understand in America. You've never seen poverty like this. And they are not factored into any of the analysis of the strength of their economy. Not only are they not factored into it, the reality is there'll be the destruction of their economy. And their economy and the inability of the Chinese communists to consider a range of solutions that would bring them out of this is completely ignored by the pro-Marxist media here in this country. When the hell has Marxism ever succeeded to create a wealthy country? How often has Marxism completely fallen apart? And how often has that falling apart been in violence? Oh gosh, almost always. Why do you think China is going to be successful in accomplishing what no one else accomplished when China has more problems than Russia had? And it has a U.S. that is much more under Trump akin to tripping them up. And since he's come into office, he's just tripped them up like they're a bunch of jerks. They didn't know about Panama. He's taken the Panama Canal back from them. They didn't even know about the deal. C.K. Hutchinson didn't even go to them. They read about it in the newspapers. They didn't think he would do it. I mean, they may have a lot of spies here, but I don't think they understand the U.S. And they got him all wrong. Well, now, instead of negotiating for a reasonable economic relationship with a country that is considerably more powerful than they are, they exaggerate everything we don't. And we're still 3 times more economically powerful than they are. We're probably 8 times more powerful. And as I told you, you look at that list of countries that are desirable to trade with. You tell me how many. You tell me how many would want to trade with China instead of us, which would be more reliable. I mean, I can remember going back 4 or 5 years, meeting with a group of African presidents at the UN assembly here, and all they were doing was complaining about the mistake they made in dealing with China. This is a very strange change now. Remember in Vietnam, there was always a concern that we didn't really understand them. Well, we didn't, really. We never understood the animosity toward China. We really understand China. They don't understand us. They really don't understand us. They have made every wrong calculation since Trump has come into office. Every single one. I mean, it's amazing. The average U.S. import levies on Chinese products up to 76%. I mean, this is unbelievable. Whether Beijing has the ability to effectively negotiate with Trump to alleviate pressure on Chinese economy and prevent a deeper decoupling with the U.S. is questionable. The Trump administration is driving the agenda. Beijing is mostly entirely in a reactive posture. The Chinese political system isn't built to nimbly respond to a leader like Trump. This is written by a Chinese man. Chinese ambassador to Washington, Xi Feng, has been trying to meet with lower-level operatives around. Trump says, no. We're not doing these. There's going to be top-level talks or none, which means they don't get any intelligence. The Chinese are good at that, but they've been cut out because he's the first president to understand it. And here's the key to why we defeat communism all the time. Beijing's inability to think beyond formal diplomatic protocol has proven to be a mismatch with a Trump team willing to engage only with those closest to Xi. And they see this too much of a political risk. Within the Chinese government, the view is that the U.S. is taking measures that will alienate itself, but it seems like most countries are agreeing with it. In addition, Beijing has antagonized Europe with its support for Moscow. During Russia's 3-year-long invasion, they were caught off guard when Hong Kong's C.K. Hutchinson announced a deal to sell its Panama ports to a U.S. investor. China is in a no-win situation, and Trump is taking great advantage of it. Boy, you don't see that much reported, do you? So we will continue our analysis of all of this and some very, very interesting sports news also. and political news that you'll be interested in on X in about 4 minutes. So you go over there, and remember, come back here tomorrow at 7. We'll be on X at 8. Remember, there's the game, but you don't watch that first. Watch us first, okay? So I want to, tonight I'm going to reserve my prayers for the people of Israel, because Bibi did us a favor today. He did us a great one today. But no, you pray for the rest of them too. They all need help, and we do. And God bless America.